Welcome back to another episode of Cracking the Shell on Psychological Science. My name is Joey Barnett, and here with me today is Dr. Mike Doherty and Dr. Arianna Gard, professor of psychology here at the University of Maryland. Welcome to the show, Arianna.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So before we get started, do you prefer Dr. Gard, Arianna, or something else?
Let's go with Dr. Gard, because I earned it, right?
You did.
Yeah.
Great. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, perhaps your hometown, where you completed your undergrad and graduate studies? Anything else you'd like to include?
Yeah, so I'm from the Bay Area in California.
Oh, nice. Like San Francisco?
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
I've been there once.
Okay.
Joey probably actually played a concert there. I don't know.
Not a concert, but I have been there, though. It was very nice.
So, yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. I know you guys are going to ask me a little bit about why I got into this field of work, so I'm just gonna layer that in there.
Yeah, please.
So I am grew up with my dad, so largely single parent, and he's a great dad, very involved, talk to him all the time, quite involved, and we grew up in middle upper class resources, and unfortunately though, when I went down to college at UCLA, he passed away. And so this was a big turning point for me. I definitely struggled a bit. I had lost my person. Mm-hmm. And it made me think a lot about why I was able to persist and resist despite this major stressor. And that really caused me to think about the resources and some of the social networks that I had. I was an only child for most of my childhood, and realized that I had just these resources that I could draw upon. And so that really drew me to get very interested in risk and resilience research. And so after I went to UCLA, I was actually a Beverly Hills nanny for a couple years, which
that's
is
really interesting.
Something that you wouldn't know. Yes, so I have quite a few stories about that. That was mostly just, to make money, right? I needed to just survive. Was volunteering in a lab, didn't get a full-time position.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
So did you start out in psychology or did you start out in something else?
Oh, God, these are getting into fun facts. So I was originally a musical theater major.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And realized that I couldn't dance at all. So I switched to be a psychology major.
Okay. None of us could dance. Lots
of singing, lots of acting as I was growing up, but, kind of just befuddled along with my two left feet.
How did you get into psychology then? If it wasn't something that you woke up when you were born, right? You were come out of the womb knowing that you're going to be a psychologist. What is it that got you into psychology? I had taken like a gen ed psychology course and just found it to be really fascinating, just learning about people and what makes us who we are. And it was, I think it was actually a sensation and perception course. Okay. Really learned like how do some of the senses that our body intakes converge to create these cognitive representations of how we perceive the world. And I think that was just very fascinating to me. But yeah, I was originally a musical theater major, which is wild. So was at UCLA for a while. And then I went back up to the Bay Area. I worked at the Child Trauma Research Program for a while. And there they were delivering an intervention for young moms who are victims of domestic violence. And I thought I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. And then I was the project coordinator for this program and realized, oh my God, I'm not very good at separating work from personal life. And I had a mentor who said, you're kind of good at research. Why don't you like maybe do developmental psychology, neuroscience, something like that? Who was that?
That was Stephen Hinshaw, Dr. Stephen Hinshaw, big ADHD researcher at Berkeley, who, kind of mentored me a little bit along the way. And I went to University of Michigan, and I was the only developmental student in a clinical lab. So I was able to work with families and learn all about clinical presentation and clinical neuroscience, but didn't have, I didn't really have the skills, I think, to be a clinician. Looking back on that, so I was really lucky that I had some people who turned me onto the right path.
How did you enjoy it? So you went from the Bay Area to Los Angeles, right?
Right.
Back to the Bay Area, and then you went to Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah, that's right.
How was like just the transition going from like California to Michigan?
Oh, it was real brutal. My car. First winter was like hellacious winter. My tires froze to the ground. I had to get, it was terrible. But I am like very, these Marylanders are like, oh, it's snowing. It's not snowing. It is like, Michigan's pretty intense. So
did you try like Detroit style pizza?
Tried Detroit. Yes, the square pizzas.
Yeah, the square pizzas. Yes.
Don't they cook it in like a special tin or something like that?
Yeah, it's like
a sheet pan.
Yeah, it's like a sheet pan. It's really good.
But I also became a pretty avid cross country skier.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. Which takes you 4 hours to get like 10 meters, but good exercise.
Yeah, I like Michigan's nice. I like the I have a cousin who lives in Ann Arbor actually. So
great food,
Yep.
great place. I was really lucky to spend.
Joey probably played a concert there too.
What's with all these jokes about Joey, and was Joey in a band? Is this like something that I don't know about Joey?
I do play in a band.
Oh my God. What instrument do you play?
Guitar.
Okay.
Actually, fun little fact.
Wow.
The music that you hear at the beginning and end of the episode.
No way.
It's Joey and his band. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Jeremy Gordon on the drums.
Yeah, there you go.
Got to throw that out there. I've been waiting to get that in.
That's wild. That's so funny. That's so funny. So yeah, that's like, a little bit about me. And probably, I really will say that, when I had the opportunity to come to Maryland, like this is a very cool location. The fact that you can get to all up and down the East Coast, and I think the University of Maryland is a really great place to be. So I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah.
It's really really inspiring, and I'm sure it inspires like a lot of our students who are thinking about graduate school, what to do after undergrad. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I did want to ask, so you direct the Growth and Resilience Across Development Lab.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about maybe your approach to science and why you do the work you do and what exactly goes on in your lab?
Yeah, so the Gard Lab has two big aims. One aim is to really try to understand what features of the neighborhood and environment context shape health and well-being. So we think about things like cognitive development, brain development, behavioral development. I am an adolescent developmental psychologist, but as we've worked more with community members, it's become very clear that lots of folks want to be involved in research. So I've become more of a lifespan researcher. And so we do that through using existing data sets, but also developing and designing studies with community members. And then a second arm of the work that's really the foundation is just this idea that research is for everyone, but as scientists we're not always trained to start with community first and community members as partners in the research process. And so really the big foundation of the lab is on service and science communication and engagement. And so that means a lot of different things. It means evaluating, how often researchers engage in some of these activities, but also trying to develop new best practices for doing that type of work.
It's so cool that you're working with the community like that.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And so how can students or how can people, maybe get involved in the kind of work that you do, or maybe in your lab?
Yeah, so, we have a couple different ways that folks can get involved. For undergraduate assistants, we recruit probably once a year a new cohort of students. We really like for students to stay in the lab for multiple semesters because as we form relationships with community partners and even teens themselves, stability is key, right? Like community partners want to see the same people and associate, the same folks with the lab. But it also takes a long time to even just learn how to communicate science in a public setting. For community members, we do a variety of different events. So One event series that we are doing right now was developed with the Woodridge Public Library in DC, and every month we put on these community art tile workshops where folks can come and create these 4x4 tiles where they're trying to depict visually what they think neighborhood safety looks like. This is one measure, one idea that has been of very clear interest to community members. So folks can swing by the Woodridge Library, participate, make a tile, come and chat with us. We also are very excited and happy to come and visit schools and to talk about neuroscience and the brain to kids in elementary and middle school age largely. So I would direct your listeners to our lab website, and there's a for community members tab, and then the students as well. There's a little link that they can use to apply.
Well, Dr. Gard, thank you so much for...
Wait. We got to get the URL. Can you tell us the URL for the lab?
www.gardlab.umd.edu.
Okay, cool.
Well, Dr. Gard, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your work, your lab, and also for allowing us to get to know you a little bit. So thank you.
Thanks, Joey. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, so cool. Keep up the good work.